Joe Biden, no matter what you hear from anyone else, wants to defund the police. Joe Biden is the leader of the Democratic Party, and the majority of the Democratic Party wants to defund the police. Black Lives Matter, an agent of the liberal left, wants to defund the police. Defunding the police is a major accomplishment of several democratically run cities, Minneapolis leading the charge, New York City, where Bill de Blasio was defunding the police. The mayor of L.A. defunded the police to the tune of $100 million. You've got the defund the police movement already going on, and it's spearheaded by the Democratic Party. And Joe Biden, like it or not, is the leader of the Democratic Party. If he runs as a Democrat, he wants to defund the police. But not only that, he has said so, despite what Chris Wallace thinks.
Because they want to defund the police, and Biden wants to defund the police.
Sir, he does not.
Look, he signed a charter with Bernie Sanders.
Not only that, he actually said, yes, we need to defund the police. And there's this interview. This guy named A.D. Barkin, who is a podcaster. He's an activist. He has ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, which is a terrible disease. A good friend of mine has it. But he's managed to become a very popular news commentator and podcaster with the help of voice technology, similar to what Jamie Dupree uses to get his message out there. And he interviewed Joe Biden. Listen to this question he asked him about what happened in Atlanta with Rayshard Brooks.
So, for example, instead of sending 2 police officers with deadly weapons to that Wendy's drive-thru in Atlanta, we could have sent a wellness counselor and a tow truck, and then Rayshard Brooks would still be alive today. And his 3 daughters would still have their daddy. Are you open to that kind of reform?
Yes. Yes, Joe Biden's open to the kind of reform that instead of sending police officers to arrest a man who was passed out in his car in the Wendy's drive-thru drunk, they're going to send a wellness counselor and a tow truck. And Joe Biden says, yes, I am up to that. I believe that's something we need. And in fact, he goes on to talk about how he's touting that kind of reform.
We need significantly more help. That's why I call for significant increase in funding for mental health clinics and mental health providers.
Okay, he's asking for increased funding for mental health providers. Increased funding for mental health means one thing, decreasing the funding for something else. What is he defunding to pay for those mental health providers? The police force. Because later on, he talks about how the police don't need all this money. They don't need all of these tools that they have.
Surplus military equipment for law enforcement. They don't need that. The last thing you need is an up-armored Humvee coming into a neighborhood. It's like the military invading. They don't know anybody. They become the enemy. They're supposed to be protecting these people.
Okay, so if he watched the news, he would see that these cities are being invaded by people with bricks who are tearing down statues, who are throwing things at hurling things at police officers, smashing windows, burning buildings down, taking over. They are invading and taking over police precincts in Minneapolis, in Seattle. They took over an entire 6-block radius and declared their sovereignty. And he's telling me the police don't need armored vehicles? The police probably need more armored vehicles to protect themselves while they're doing their job of protecting other people. But Joe Biden clearly wants to defund them. Here's where he announces that to the world.
So my generic point is that...
Do we agree that we can redirect some of the funding?
Yes, absolutely.
Do we agree that we can redirect some of the funding, was the question he asked.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Redirecting some of the funding is defunding. It's a different word for the same damn thing. Redirecting funding is defunding. If your boss came to you and said, hey, we're going to cut your pay by 50%, you'd have a conniption fit. If he came in and said, wait a minute, we're not going to do that. We're going to redirect 50% of your pay to other assets here in the workplace. Would it make any difference to you? You're still getting defunded. Redirecting funds and defunding is the same thing. And don't let the media or Joe Biden or Twitter or Chris Wallace tell you anything. Donald Trump was 100% accurate when he said Joe Biden wants to defund the police.
Because they want to defund the police, and Biden wants to defund the police.
Sir, he does not.
Oh, I'm sorry. He doesn't want to defund the police. He wants to redirect funding away from the police. Come on, give me a break, Chris Wallace. You know better than that. You can't pull it. You can't pull this semantic BS on Donald Trump and the American voters. We know exactly what Joe Biden's about. We know exactly what his policy is. We know exactly what Nancy Pelosi's about. We know exactly what her policy is. The media is trying to cover up the fact that Joe Biden is the leader of the Democratic Party, and with that, every single Democratic stance, including defunding the police. That's why the National Association of Police Organizations and their 250,000 nationwide members threw their support behind the President of the United States, because he stands with the cops and Biden stands with the criminals. He actually doesn't stand with them. He sits in a chair in his basement with the criminals. But that's a story for another day.